Canadiens keep losing, Gallagher is injured, and why I think the Canadiens should fire Marc Bergevin. All of that and more coming up next on the Habsnation Podcast. Alright, hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt and welcome to the Sin Bin Network, and this is the Habsnation Podcast, the podcast by a Habs fan for the Habs fan. So, before we get into the news for today and start talking about the Canadiens, I first have to address Friday's show. In case you guys don't know what happened, I sort of had a huge meltdown. One of my biggest pet peeves is bad internet connection, and when I'm back home in Canada and there's my brother using his Wi-Fi on his laptop, his computer, my sister using her Wi-Fi on her laptop and her phones, the TV using Wi-Fi, the radio's using Wi-Fi, etc., 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 it's pretty hard for me to stream. So I've completely had a meltdown. I think I said my internet was worse than Baghdad internet or something like that, but I do have to thank two people specifically. And those two peoples are Louis LeBlanc, who's in the chat, hey there buddy, and for Joe, because they were ready, they were waiting for the show to happen, and I completely blew it up, so I got to apologize for that. It's my first meltdown online. Actually, that's a lie, I've had meltdowns before, but anyway, that doesn't matter right now, because we are going to start talking about the Canadiens. Now, for those of you who don't know the podcast, I believe this is episode 8. What I do is that I have these main topics that I like to talk about. Today we're going to talk a lot about my opinion on Marc Bergevin. We're going to talk a little bit about Gallagher's injury, which isn't really encouraging if you're a Canadiens fan. But what I'd like to do is sort of take viewer questions along the way, and I like to, answer your questions, whatever topic you guys have. It doesn't even have to be about the Canadiens, to be honest, but I do like to stick to the Canadiens. But with that being said, I keep saying before we get into the news, but one of the dreams I've had as a YouTuber, as a hockey pundit, is answering you guys' question on the live chat. That's always been fun for me. But I always like the idea of a voice chat, of a sort of call-in hotline, or whatever you guys want to call it. And if you look below here, you might see the Discord. My user is called the Sinbin number 9433. And what that means, if I were to switch over here, this is my Discord. And what you guys would do is you would say add friend, and you would put in my username, so the Sinbin 9433, all in one word. And if you guys want, you can call into the show. I think GB's done it a couple of times, and if you're listening to the GB, it would be a good test. But that's only if you guys want to. If you guys want to call in, it's using Discord. Just download it. There's an app on your phone. I think there's a browser version, and enter the Sinbin 9433, all capitalize the first letters in all one word, and we could have a voice chat. 8 viewers in the chat. Wow. I think this is a record, to be honest. There's Alexei Dubuc. He's been retracting his messages left and right. Hey there, buddy. Louis LeBlanc. Hey there. Joe is also there. And again, Joe, if you missed it, I just wanted to send an apology to both you and Louis LeBlanc, because I know you guys were ready at the gun to watch that show on Friday, but unfortunately, because of the internet, because of everything going on, I was unable to do so. But I really appreciate you guys being there. It means so much to me. You guys don't even know. All right. We're ready. Let's get into it. And we are starting with a bombshell. This guy, look at that. As the French say, une face de clown, I believe is how it's pronounced. A clown's face. Alright, I called Marc Bergevin a clown. Do I mean it? Not really. I think that Marc Bergevin is a decent GM. I mean, I don't know really how long he's been with the Canadiens. I probably should have looked up that stat beforehand. But I know that during his tenure with the Montreal Canadiens, he's been nominated for the GM of the Year. I forget the award's name, but he was nominated for the GM of the Year at least once, maybe even twice. Marc Bergevin is not a bad GM, all right? He is not a bad GM. I think his biggest strength are the individual trades. I know a lot of people, a couple of years ago, they weren't really encouraged with Bergevin. They were putting him in the same category as Peter Chiarelli out there in Edmonton. And I think that that's a total disservice, because when it comes to the individual trades, when it comes to the PK Subban trade, most notably, that was one that I looked at it and I was like, God damn it, what a bad decision. But when I look back at that PK Subban trade, I can definitely say, Bergevin, you were on top of your game. Stu Johnson says it was actually 8 years, so very long tenure. I don't believe I've ever seen someone for the team that long in terms of GMs. I also liked the Sergachev trade, pardon me. That one I'm a little bit more on the fence, actually, because I think it's still a little too early. I don't know what Sergachev is going to become. But I do like Drouin, and I like the steps he took forward this year and his effort level this year, and etc. It's too bad he had to end his season so shortly. But I also like the Max Domi trade. If you trade someone, if you trade Galchenyuk and get a Domi out of it, that's a win. I don't care in whose books it is, that is a win in my books. Another thing, we see a lot of this. Marc Bergevin trades a player for another player, and that other player ends up getting traded by their team. Like, for example, PK Subban. PK Subban's traded out of Nashville. Shea Weber's still with Montreal. Alex Galchenyuk is traded out of Arizona. Max Domi is still with Montreal, and they're both essential heartbeats of the team. All right, I'm done sucking Marc Bergevin's dick, because this is where it gets real for the moment. My biggest problem with Marc Bergevin, all right? My biggest problem with this guy, it's not the trades. I just finished stroking him off and, talking about every trade he did, the major ones at least that I think he's won. It's not the trade. My biggest complaint about Marc Bergevin is his lack of vision. His lack of a mission, if I were to say so myself. And what I mean by that, I truly think, and remember, I'm a hockey fan, I'm an armchair GM, I'm not in the business, but as a hockey fan, and as someone who's watched the Canadiens for years, as well as the other teams, I am a true believer that you can only win in two ways in this league, all right? One of them is building through the draft, all right? And the other one is building through the draft. Okay, there's only one way. It's building through the draft. I guess a third way would be through free agency, but Montreal's luck when it comes to free agents, it's been horrible, okay? Whether it be Daniel Briere, before he was with the Flyers, I know the Canadiens were in for him. He decided to go to the Flyers, and he's a French kid. Marian Hossa, back when he was with, I believe it was the Thrashers or whatever, the Penguins, Montreal, they were in talks for him. He ended up going to Detroit. Matt Sundin, Montreal were in it till the very end. Matt Sundin is getting traded off Toronto. Where does he go? Vancouver. It seems that Montreal has the worst luck when it comes to free agency. So that's why I say, if the free agents aren't going to come, there's only one way to build your team. And that is through the draft. Now, Montreal had a very important decision, and Marc Bergevin had a really important decision this offseason. And that decision is, am I going to make a push for the playoffs? Am I going to make a push for the Stanley Cup? Or are we a rebuilding team? Okay, it's a black and white situation. It's either or. In my opinion, Marc Bergevin, he kind of pulled off, he went in between. He says, I'm not going to rebuild, I'm going to do a reset. I'm going to do a reset. And what that means, what that tells me when he says, I want to do a reset, is that I want to keep Carey Price, I want to keep Shea Weber, but I still want to rebuild. I still want to tank, so to speak. All right? For me, that's not a good answer. If you want to get good through the draft, you need good draft picks. And I love this fucking excuse when people say, hey, even if you get the last place, it's only a 30% chance you get the first pick. So, okay, we'll take the second pick. We'll take the third pick. It's better than picking at 15th or even picking in the 20s if you make it at a playoff round. All right? When Marc Bergevin says, I'm going to do a reset, he is saying, I'm not going to trade Price. I'm not going to trade Weber. I'm going to keep all of these veterans, but I'm still going to try to rebuild with the youth. It's kind of this weird in-between thing, and it irks me. It really irks me because what happens, the result, the Canadiens aren't bad enough, like they're not Detroit bad, who I believe just lost this afternoon, but then again, they're maybe not even good enough to make the playoffs. Actually, it's looking more and more bleak when you think about it, the playoffs. In case you guys are wondering what that noise is, it's the boil room. It's going to stop in a few instances, but what happens is that the Canadiens, they're sort of in this no man's land. If you look at the standings right now, as I pull them out, Montreal's in the 26th place. They currently have 45 points in 46 games. Okay? They are ahead of Los Angeles, New Jersey, Ottawa, Anaheim, and Detroit. For me personally, I would say that getting down to Detroit is easier than trying to get up to the 15th or 16th spot to get into the playoff spot. But what happens is that since Montreal has all of these veteran players, and Carey Price and Shea Weber, they're not good enough to make the playoffs, but they're not bad enough to get a decent draft pick. And when I say decent, for me, it's like 1, 2, maybe 3. And for that reason, for that lack of vision, I tell you, Jeff Molson, it is time to fire Bergevin. It is time to fire Bergevin. I mean, seldom will I ever agree with Michel Bergeron over there in TVA, but he made a really good point. Why doesn't the Canadiens do like what the Rangers did a few years ago? Where they put out a statement to the fans. They put out a letter and they said, guys, fans, tickets holders, we are going to suck. For a couple of years now, we are going to suck. We are not going to get high in the standings. We're going to be one of the bottom dwellers because we are rebuilding. It might suck for some of the season ticket holders. They might say, hey, I don't like seeing a team lose. But at the same time, they're being honest, and most importantly, they have a vision. Their vision is that we are going to suck to become better. Marc Bergevin lacks that vision that Glenn Slater had. I believe it was Glenn Slater at the time for the New York Rangers, okay? And for that reason, I think it's time to fire Bergevin. And I hate to say this, and I'm going to get to the chat in a few minutes. I know a lot of people have a lot to say, but I hate to say this. I think that money's got a lot to do with it. All right? Bergevin wants to make somewhat of a competitive team in order to get them to the playoffs so they can sell their overpriced beer and sell their overpriced hot dogs that taste like ass. I'm scared it's a money thing, and I hope I'm wrong on that because I have no proof. I'm sort of speculating here, but I feel like it's sort of a money thing going on. All right. I got to say, as a fan, it's frustrating. I much rather see the team lose on a consistent basis and get the last place than see them where they are right now, where they're sort of not good but not bad. They're sort of in no man's land. It's so frustrating as a fan. All right, as promised, I'm going to get to the live chat. Okay, so Joe is here. Stu Johnson says, we need another 8-game losing streak. And I completely agree. It's looking bleaker and bleaker. I don't know if someone can look it up right now, but what are the odds that the Canadiens make it to the playoffs? What's the percentage chance? I'm willing to bet my left testicle there is a higher chance they get to the last position than they get to a playoff spot. Joe says, don't worry about it, Matt. It happens sometimes. Yeah, again, I apologize about that. He also says, I've always loved Bergevin. When people talked him down, I always defended him. Even now, I still defend the guy, and I love the moves he makes. Yeah, for sure. Like I said, when it comes to the individual moves, 100%. 10 on 10. I don't think he won all of them. Every GM, they're going to have some trades that they don't like. But for me, like I said, my biggest problem is that lack of vision. That lack of, hey guys, we're going to make it to the cup or we're going to make it to the bottom place. There's no in between. There's either or, okay? Cup or bottom place. Anything else you can throw it in the garbage. I don't care about it. Stu Johnson says, me too, but I'm starting to want some change, honestly. But it won't happen during the summer. If it does, it's going to be this summer. Alexei Dubuc retracting his messages left and right. Joe says, I don't think he's done the right things when it comes to the draft. He's drafted many promising players who have already made an impact on our team. In my opinion, he and Timmins are the most important guys. When you say he's not, I think he's done the right thing when it comes to the draft, I will agree with you. I think their drafting has been solid. Okay? But the one thing that's preventing me from saying they were great at the draft or they were 10 on 10 at the draft is that if you look at Montreal's past 3 high picks, the top 3 picks, they took Galchenyuk and they took Kotkaniemi. Okay? Forget Kotkaniemi because that's a little bit too early. The kid's, 19? I'm not going to say he's a bust yet, or I'm not going to say he's a superstar yet. I'm going to just ride the wave. But when it comes to Galchenyuk, when I see the players that were drafted after Galchenyuk, the Forsbergs, the Morgan Rileys, even the Jacob Trubas, these are all players I would have taken instead of Galchenyuk. So, for me, that's my biggest pet peeve. They do good in the later rounds. Romanov, holy crap, what a pick. Yeah, he was still in the first round, but Cole Caulfield, he looks like a promising pick. Ryan Poehling looks promising. They look good in the later rounds, but it seems once they pick in the top 3, I'm not a fan of it. And like Shazam just said, McCarron, we all know how that ended. He got traded. All right. Where was I? Stu Johnson. He says we need to get second to last. Yeah, at least. Look, it's not impossible to get second to last. I think it's very, very possible. Anaheim has 39 points. Montreal has 45. If Anaheim goes on a little tear here, and if Montreal, they go on a little losing streak, we might get the second place. And as you guys all know, I'm sure I'm teaching you nothing, these positions in the standings, they're probabilities. There's lotteries. The lower you are, the less points you have, the more percentage chance you have drafting first overall, winning the lottery. So if you're not going to make it to the playoffs, just give all the pieces away. Again, I don't like him per se, but I think Michel Bergeron had a point when he said, guys, if at the All-Star break, he says the All-Star break, and I agree with that timeline too, if at the All-Star break, the team is still doing bad, we're all celebrating the win yesterday. Congrats, guys. You won in overtime against the Ottawa Senators. I think a team of grandmothers can do that. If past the All-Star break, the team is still horrendous, then trade away Shea Weber. Trade away Price. I don't think it's going to happen because Marc Bergevin just adores those two players. Price, he's his chouchou, if I'm to use a French term. It's his little favorite, his teacher's pet. Okay? He loves Carey Price. And I think he also loves Shea Weber. Thomas Tatar is an interesting one for me because Thomas Tatar is actually a UFA at the end of the year. If the Canadiens are not going to make the playoffs, and Tatar, the way he's having the season he is, I think Marc Bergevin has a little bit something wrong if he doesn't trade away Tatar at the deadline. There's a lot of teams, they'll be willing to give up a left nut to get Thomas Tatar. And if you're not making the playoffs come the All-Star break, or a little bit after that, you are not a buyer. You are a seller. Okay? And when you are a seller, you have to trade away some of the aspects on your team. If you're not going to trade away Price, and you're not going to trade away Weber, then at least for the love of God, give away Thomas Tatar. They can get something from a Thomas Tatar. They can get a good A-quality prospect. Because let's not forget, the trade deadline, it's the time when teams who think they are competitive, they're trying to go over the edge. They're sort of, they'll overpay, okay? It's a date where a lot of mistakes are made. It's time to screw over a team. Tatar, I love you. I love the passion you brought to the team. And for someone who's relatively small, I think you do show a lot of grit. But like I said, All-Star break, if the Canadiens are still a bottom dweller, you are out, my friend. You are out. All right, send in your question, guys. I'm going to do my best of answering it. And like I said in the beginning, if you guys want to call in, go on Discord, user the Sinbin number 9433. JB, if you're listening, if you could call to do a test, that would be sublime. All right, where was I? Shazam, he says, fire Bergevin. Won't change the players on the ice. That's true. Stu Johnson said no, but the new guy might blow it up finally. That's what they need. That's what they need. A yard sale. And I brought up his name, Carey Price, and I said how much Marc Bergevin loves Carey. I mean, to give him a contract, an 8-year, $10 million contract, making him the highest paid goalie in the league at the time. I think Bobrovsky just surpassed him by $0.5 million, which isn't really much. The guy likes him, all right? Marc Bergevin loves Carey Price. He's been on record saying if we're going to win, it's going to be through Carey Price. We're going to have to build around Carey Price. So far this year, the Canadiens have not been able to do it, all right? And I am scared. Teams around the league, they're going to start to catch on. Goalies do not deserve to get paid $10 million, okay? They are way too inconsistent. One year you might see a really hot goalie. The other year you might see a really cold goalie. I mean, they're sort of fluid like that. Just look at Hellebuck there in Winnipeg. 2 years ago, he's a top goalie. Last year, he sucked. This year, he's a top goalie again. Would you pay $10 million for a goalie every year if he's only going to perform 1 year on 2, if that? I don't think so. And to be honest, I think teams are going to start catching on to that. So for me, if I were the GM on the Canadiens, I would trade Carey Price before teams catch on to that goalies do not deserve $10 million. Carey Price has something that's irreproachable, and that is his reputation. Carey Price has a tremendous reputation across the league. If he lets in a goal, is it Carey Price's fault? No, it's the defense. It's the team that sucks. The offense didn't score enough goals. The defense didn't do good enough. That's why he let in the goals. That's why the team lost. He has that type of reputation. He has that type of power. You could still get value out of him. And again, Michel Bergeron said that on TVA Saturday. Someone who, again, I don't really agree with everything, but he had a good point. You'll get something out of Carey Price, and then the guy next to him said, but who's going to replace Carey Price? Who's going to be his replacement in nets? Is it going to be Lindgren? If you're going to trade Carey Price, you got to assume Montreal is going to get a goalie out of it. Okay? An example, and I'm just spitballing here, this isn't factual, this is just me speculating. One goalie that's been on the trade block for quite a while now is Georgiev, out there in New York. Alexander Georgiev. Okay? You know, the Rangers, they have a Hall of Famer in nets. His name is Henrik Lundqvist. But one thing about Lundqvist, he's not getting any younger. Okay? Don't you think a team with that would like a Carey Price? You know, if they're going to rebuild, they want an experienced goalie in net who can make up for the mistakes of their younger stars, the Kratsovs, the Kakos, whoever it may be. Why not trade Carey Price for Georgiev and a couple of rookies there, a couple of prospects? Georgiev would be that temporary solution, okay? And you would get a couple of prospects, and he's that temporary solution until Caden Primo comes up. Or if it's another goalie, I don't know. He's that temporary solution. And I've seen in the chat, Stu Johnson, he's proposing Grubauer for Byram in the first. I put that out a long time ago, okay? I believe it was on Scotty 2's channel. He was doing an episode of What Trades Do You Want to See? I said Carey Price for Byram and Grubauer. And maybe a second, you know? They have a lot of cap space, Colorado. It might be interesting. This is what I like to do as a fan, just speculating, the whole speculation thing. Unfortunately, like I said, Bergevin loves Carey Price. He loves him some Carey Price. I wouldn't be surprised if they sleep in the same bed and they spoon and they go out for salads after that. You know, they love each other. I don't think we're going to see Price get traded anytime soon. And I believe if he continues this way, Carey Price, and he's still playing the way he is, and he's not really encouraging, and he has a low save percentage. Well, I went with my cousin the other day. I think he's 6th to last in the league, or 5th to last when it comes to save percentage. That's not what you want for a $10 million goalie. I think if we continue to see it, he might get traded, or not traded away, he might be given away to Seattle in the expansion draft. I forget where his wife is from, but she's near Seattle. I think her hometown is a 3-hour or 2-hour drive from Seattle. I think she's going to have a say in that. You know, no offense against Carey Price, but seeing him and his wife in interviews, he seems a little bit pussy-whipped. You know, I reviewed the Lindsey Vonn and the PK Subban interview, and just the way that PK Subban's like, yes ma'am, don't get mad at me, Lindsey. I wouldn't be surprised if Carey Price is the same way. She definitely wears the pants in that relationship. But back to the question. By the way, that's not for fact. Back to the question. Where was I? All right. Shazam. He says Price needs to go. The only problem is his contract. And like I agree. But I will say something. His contract, I don't think it's quite a problem yet. I don't think it's a problem yet because, like I said, with Carey Price's reputation across the league, you know what a lot of people are saying? And I know this because I go and I watch other teams and their comments on YouTube. They're not saying Carey Price is bad. They're saying the team is bad. They're saying the defense is bad. They're saying, oh my God, Carey Price, he'd win 10 Stanley Cups if he were on a different team. Okay? While I do think the defense is horrible, They allow way too many odd man rushes. Earlier on, a couple of weeks ago, the game against Edmonton, I mean, that was a shit show. I mean, there was a 2-on-1 every other minute, I felt. I do think the defense isn't the best, isn't the deepest. Past Shea Weber and maybe Ben Sherratt, I mean, there's a little bit of a drop-off, let's not lie. But I don't think Carey Price is doing his job either. For me, $10 million, 8 years, $10 million, which, quick math, that's $80 million. That type of money tells me, I don't care how bad the defense is. I don't care how much the offense isn't scoring. The puck comes to you, you make that save. Because if we're going to sit here and make all of these different excuses, then don't give the guy $10 million. It's as clear and simple as that. I mean, we can dwell on the contract and I'll be happy to do it. But the fact of the matter is, I would like to see the Canadiens kind of look ahead. To be a good GM in this league, you have to be a visionary. You have to trade a player before he's bad or before he's viewed as bad. I don't think Carey Price's reputation is tarnished yet in this league. I still think that a team like Colorado, who, no offense to Grubauer, I don't think he's a number one in this league. And with the cap space they have, I don't think there's any excuse you can't make at least an offer to Colorado. But that's just me. Sooner or later, like I said, teams are looking at Price and teams are looking at Bobrovsky. And they're saying, okay, the goalies do not deserve $10 million. Okay? See ya, Ghislain. Goalies do not deserve $10 million. And I say, trade him before teams catch on to it. I sound like a broken record, but I just got to get my point across. Okay? It's essential. This deal can set the team back years. Because it's not just a case of he's getting paid this much and he doesn't deserve the money. The money that's being taken up to Carey Price, the cap space that Carey Price is using up, that could go to a really good player. I'm not a fan of him, but Taylor Hall's a UFA at the end of the year. Say if Carey Price was paid $7 million or $8 million, more akin to what I think he deserves, that's an extra $3 or $2 million that goes to your cap space that you can spend on a high-end free agent. Okay? And I'm not saying I want to see the Canadiens go get Taylor Hall. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just giving an example. Okay? Say if Panarin was a free agent this year, then I would be saying, yeah, jump on that. I much prefer see a Panarin than a Taylor Hall, but that's just me. Anyway. Where was I? God, I get this problem where I lose track. Ghislain says, who just left, but I'm sorry, I'm getting to your question now. He says, I cannot blame the GM to select the best players available. Do we need to trade everyone on the team and keep only the young kid? I believe you're referring to the draft here when you're saying they select the best player available. Yeah, I can't argue with that. A lot of people like to shit on him for Nikita Sherbak and for the Michael McCarrons. And he's sort of starting to enter in that category, which I hate to say, but the Noah Juulsens. I'm not going to be that person because if you look at the list of names after those players, and after the Louis LeBlancs and whoever it may be, yes, there's a few here and there, but for the most part, there's no one. It's hard to draft a really good top 6 player if you're always drafting in the 20s. Okay, so I'm not going to blame him for that. But that being said, if you're picking 3rd overall and you take an Alex Galchenyuk when there's a Philip Forskin that's right below him, and there's a Morgan Riley, and there's Jacob Trouba, and there's all of these guys, then I'm a little less lenient. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit less lenient. And I'm not going to put Kotkaniemi in that category because it's way too early. But again, still right now, it's too early. A lot of people are saying, man, I would like to see Tkachuk in a Canadiens uniform. Some are even saying, man, I would like to see Zadina in a Canadiens uniform. I'm not one of those because I say it's way too early, but that kind of goes back to a video I put out a long time ago where I said you guys are putting up crazy expectations for Kotkaniemi. Okay? I think he's a great player. I don't think it's fair to put up those type of expectations. Because, comparing him to Barkov, if you're saying, yeah, he has similar skating to Barkov, he has similar hands to Barkov, then I think that's a fair comparison. But to say he's going to become the Barkov of the Canadiens, no, I don't think so. Because Barkov is 1 in a million, okay? I truly think he's a top 5 talent in this league. Not a lot of people are talking about him, but I do think he's a top 5 talent in this league. Comparing a young 18-year-old player who's barely played a season in this league to a superstar like Barkov, I think that's a disservice. But that's just me, and I would love to see Kotkaniemi flourish. Okay? I do think that it's sort of been a roller coaster where people had him way high, and now they're looking at Cias and they have him low. He's going to end up going somewhere in the middle, and in terms of his play. It's going to fall somewhere in the middle, and I can't wait to see what the future holds. But if you were saying all of those things about Suzuki, I would sort of understand, because when I look at Suzuki, who had a beautiful snipe against Ottawa, I don't know if you guys saw this, but he had his friends from Owen Sound, his old players. They went in the crowds during the practice, and they came up by the glass, and they were talking to him. And having that type of support for him during the Ottawa game, and not only that, but being able to score in front of them, an absolute dirty snipe, top shelf, top cheese. That's something special. I mean, I hope you fans are happy, because as skeptical as I was for Kotkaniemi, and still am, I'm the complete opposite for Suzuki. I think this guy's going to be a bona fide superstar. A lot of people compare him to Ryan O'Reilly. I think that's a decent comparison. I don't think he's quite on the same level defensively, because Ryan O'Reilly is just a beast on defense. I mean, you don't win the Selke for nothing if you're Ryan O'Reilly. But he has various similarities to Ryan O'Reilly. The skating, I think it's a similarity. But when I look at his vision and I look at his passing, and we see it often on the power play where he's on one hash mark and he makes a cross ice pass all the way. It's usually to Tatar for some reason, and it just ends up going through a lot of players. It takes talent to do that, you know. When you're looking at the goalie and you're coming down on the wing, and you're looking at the goalie and the goalie thinks shot, and then at the last minute, boop, you do a pass without even looking at that player in your periphery. That takes talent. We are witnessing something right now, and I don't know if he's going to get nominated for the Calder. I think that in my, if it were my opinion, if I were able to vote, yeah, for sure, I'm nominating him for the Calder. Right now, I think Olofsson, he's leading the league in terms of rookies, okay? I would sort of give the nod to Suzuki, even though he has much less points than Olofsson. He is younger. Olofsson's in that 25-year-old range, 24, 25-year-old range, and those 3 years, that's a big difference. I mean, wait and see what Suzuki is at 25. And, you know, we're going to be saying completely different things while I'm knocking down shit here. All right. Again, if any new viewers, or if you guys aren't even listening live, you can type in your questions in the chat. Also, I forgot to mention, I usually do it at the end, but make sure to follow me at Twitter, at the SinBin1996, or if you have any questions, you guys want to make me a video, any video ideas, you can email me at thesinbin1996@gmail.com, or if you guys want to call in, make sure to use Discord, number 9433. Alright, we are ready to go. Keep sending in those questions. I think I was at Ghislain, or at Stu. He says trade him to Colorado just to get that $10 million out. Yeah, for sure. And hey, if Colorado, if they're if they're skeptical, if they don't want to take on that contract, then retain some salary. You know, if you retain $2 million from the Carey Price contract, I think the Canadiens, they have the room to do it. I don't think that $2 million is the end of the world, especially in the future when Carl Alzner's contract is going to come off. Retain $2 million. And now they see Carey Price at an $8 million rather than a $10 million. Just optically, it's more appetizing. You get off that double digit and you're into the single digits. I think that $8 million, it's very, excuse me. I was going to say it's very digestible, and ironically, I'm not digesting my food right now. I got wicked heartburn. Joe said, I don't think we should blow up the team or anything, or tank. We got our prospects. We're obviously the best prospects in the NHL, and I think we're all set. Yeah, that's a very valid point. I'm not going to argue with you there. But I believe I told you this a couple of videos ago, and I'm just going to reiterate myself in case you guys didn't hear it. Having the best prospect pool in the NHL, it's a really good thing. But it's not a surefire thing. You know, because right now, in terms of prospects, the Kokkaniemis, the Suzukis, the Palings, the Caulfields, the Romanovs, everyone, are all of them going to pan out to their full potential? No, maybe not. Okay? Maybe Romanov, he might end up being a bottom pairing defenseman. All right, maybe a lot of us were wrong, including me. He might end up being a bottom pairing defenseman. Maybe Paling, who a lot of people had him being the second line center, maybe he's a third line center. Maybe Suzuki gets a horrible knee injury and he falls off the face of the earth and he's a fourth line center for the rest of his career. Knock on wood, God forbid, But in terms of prospects, it's great to have a lot. Not all of them are going to pan out. I'll be very, very surprised if all of these prospects in the Canadian system pan out to be what they're expected to be, what they're projected to be. It's going to take a stroke of luck. A lot of things have to be aligned in the right places for that to happen. So, to answer your question, there's no such thing as too many prospects. That's like saying, I have too much money. I have too many lottery tickets. Okay? There's no such thing as getting too many prospects. And if you're going to miss the playoffs, might as well get the second overall pick or the first overall pick, as opposed to the 14th or the 13th or the 15th or wherever they might end up picking. For me, they're not getting to the playoffs. I don't care. I don't care if they finish ahead of Detroit. No, I want the last pick. Or the first pick, I should say. I want the last position. Shazam says McCarron. And also, Joe says his wife's actually from D.C., I believe. Yeah, she's from D.C., but I remember looking it up quite a while ago. Where she lives in D.C., it's around 2 hours away from Seattle. 3 hours from Seattle. I wouldn't be surprised if when she were younger, she gathered a bunch of her girlfriends and went to Seattle to get drunk and whatever, I'm pretty sure she's familiar with Seattle. I wouldn't be surprised if she's one of the factors and saying to Carey Price, hey, look, you need a fresh start. I'm sick of Montreal. I'm sick of the taxes. I'm sick of eating at Schwartz. Why not go to Seattle? We'll be next to Pop Pop and Nene and whoever it may be. I wouldn't be surprised if he has that little voice in his ear. I'm going to be honest. Am I speculating this off of anything? Absolutely not. This isn't based on any fact. I'm just speculating off of thoughts. And if you guys disagree, tell me why. Shazam says, actually, Halak has better career stats than Price, I think. Yeah, this year, Halak has better save percentage. I remember seeing that when I was looking it up with my cousin. Halak this year does have a better save percentage, but I'm not going to put much stock into that because right now he's playing a number 2 role, all right? He gets more rest. He doesn't play as many games. His muscles aren't as worn out. So for me, that's not a good comparison. If you were playing the same number of games as Carey Price, where it's basically every game except if there's a back-to-back, and he has these type of stats, then I would be saying, yeah, we're in trouble. I mean, that Lars Eller trade, we are in trouble. But with all that being said, talk about a trade I'm not a fan of. Halak, let me just give a little flashback here. And it's looking more and more like we won't get to Gallagher, but Halak used to be on top of the world. Halak used to be the goalie, all right? After that crazy playoff run where he beat Washington against all expectations, where he beat the Pittsburgh Penguins against all expectations. His trade value could not be at its highest peak. And I always say it, if you're going to trade a player, don't trade him when he's playing on the fourth line, 10 minutes a game, and his value is at its lowest. Galchenyuk. Sorry. Trade him when he's at his highest. And I felt that when they decided to trade Halak, he was at his highest value. Who do they get out of it? Ian Schultz, who never played an NHL game, I don't believe, and Lars Eller, who I love Lars. He ended up winning the cup in Washington, but he's a perennial third-line center. Talk about a trade I'm not a fan of. Again, I apologize for the noise that's happening next to me. But yeah, this year, I'm not going to go ahead and say that Halak is better than Price because they haven't played the same number of games. If you were playing, take Tuukka Rask's role, if he was their number 1, then yeah. Ghislain Laframboise says he got to go. Okay, bye. Rocky Hockey says, do you think a trade, Price and Kovalchuk, for Byron and Francouz would make sense? Shit. It's, okay. For me, it makes sense. I think that the values are sort of similar. I don't know if you guys play NHL franchise mode, but when you put a player up on the trade screen and you got their little value in the bar? I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but I think their values come to the same thing. The problem is, if I were the Canadiens and I were to do a trade with Colorado, I'd need to have a Grubauer there, just so we can, just so they can have someone to put in front of the nets. In the meantime that a Caden Primo comes up, because you can't just have Charlie Lindgren, be in front of the pipes. That you're just gonna lose every game. You're gonna have a rest card for the most losses. I think that in the interim, you need a goalie to kind of substitute Carey Price in the short term. So for me, I think that if you trade Price and Kovalchuk for, say, a Grubauer, and they might not want to give away Byram, but if you can get another one of their prospects, maybe a Connor Timmins, maybe a Sam Girard, who I don't know if we can still call him a prospect, but still, I wouldn't hate that. I definitely wouldn't hate that. But again, if you're going to trade away Price, I think they need to acquire a goalie as a substitute, just in the meantime. Because I don't know about you guys, but I think Caden Primo's the guy of the future. I really do. I look at that kid play, and wow, he is incredible. If I might say so myself, I absolutely love him. But he's not ready yet. Okay, he's not ready to take on that workload. It's rare that a 20-year-old goalie, or whatever age he is, 19-year-old goalie, can succeed in this league. They don't quite have the athleticism to take on a 60-game workload. So if he were to trade to Colorado, or whatever which team it is, you need to get a goalie in that short period of time. I will say, though, with Price's value declining pretty much every single game that's happening, and I think that after the World Juniors and Canada having won gold, Byram's value is really high. He's not viewed as a top 4 defenseman. He's viewed as a perennial top pairing defenseman. He's going to play on your left side. He's going to play on your power play. He's going to play on the penalty kill. He's going to play in every situation. That's the reputation of Bowen Byram. I don't know if they're going to do it. As a Canadiens fan, I'm here sitting saying, yeah, do it. Absolutely. Bring him on. He can wear number 44 or whatever it is. But if I were sitting in the shoes of a Colorado Avalanche fan, would you guys like that trade? Would you think it's fair? I don't think so. What do you guys think? Try to put yourself in the shoes of the Colorado Avalanche. Do I want to take on Carey Price and give away a Bowen Byram? For me, maybe they won't get a Byram. I do think they can still get a Connor Timmins or a Samuel Girard, which either one of them I think it's good. I think that getting rid of that $10 million is a reward in itself, if I'm to be honest. Shazam says, a question I've always asked myself, would the Habs have been better drafting Anze Kopitar instead of Carey Price? I don't know, man. You're asking me questions I need a crystal ball for. Because Anze Kopitar, he's great with the Los Angeles Kings, okay? But if he were drafted by Montreal, and if he were brought up into Hamilton instead of the Ontario Reign, and if he were playing next to, Saku Koivu instead of Dustin Brown, would he be the same player he is right now? I would need a crystal ball. Would the Canadiens be better off than they are right now? I would need a crystal ball. My first instinct is no, I don't think so, because although I love Anze Kopitar, I own his t-shirt actually. I love Anze Kopitar. I think that Price did give a lot of valuable years of service to the Montreal Canadiens. I'm speaking as if he's already traded, but he did give a lot of great years to the Canadiens. Years where he ended up getting nominated for the Vezina, where he ended up winning the Vezina, where he won the Hart. I think we're going to look back, and when it's all said and done and both players' careers are over, we're going to say, hey, Kopitar is good, but I think that overall, what Price gave to the Canadiens is better. What I will add to that, and I'm going to finish on this, or finish the question, not the live stream. I'm still on for a couple more minutes, don't worry, guys. Is that at this period in time, say when the players are past their 30s, I think that Price is starting to hurt the Canadiens more than he is helping them. Again, due to that heavy contract. I think that right now, they could use an Anze Kopitar. They would rather have an Anze Kopitar instead of having drafted Price. So if I were just to summarize, I think that the Canadiens did well drafting Price over Kopitar from age 20 to 30. But from age 30 to 40, whenever these guys are going to stop playing, I think the Canadiens would have rather drafted Kopitar because he's not making as much money as Price. He's not taking as much place in the cap space. Right now, he is the better player, Anze Kopitar. So it's a double question here. I think from age 20 to 30, Carey Price is the best pick. From age 30 to 40, I think they'd rather have Kopitar, but that's just me. Let me know if you agree. Alexei the Book is here. Hey, buddy. Joe says, I think we should let go of Mete. Dude's useless in my opinion. Nothing special defensively. It takes him a century to score a goal, let alone a point. Let's ship him to Anaheim for Fowler. Yeah, but here's the problem, dude. You're saying all of this. No, he's nothing special. It takes him a century to score a goal. You know, it takes him a century to score a point. Why would Anaheim trade him for Fowler? You know, oh, okay, I see it under. You're including a package. Jokinen, Yolonen, Mete to Anaheim in exchange for Cal Fowler and Troy Terry. Yeah, maybe that's a decent trade, I would say. I don't know why the Canadiens would take on Cam Fowler, though, because I like to see them as a rebuilding team, even though Marc Bergevin says we are resetting, we are not rebuilding. I like to see them as a rebuilding team, and having Mete, who's younger, who's faster, who may be smaller, but right now, he's going to last you more years than Cam Fowler, who's quite a little bit older than him. I don't really want Cam Fowler on the team anyway, so let's see. Speaking of Galchenyuk, Joe says, should we try to acquire him again? Because you would think that his value isn't as high as it was before, because he's struggled ever since leaving here, a third-line right winger. You know what? To be honest, I look at Galchenyuk, and I don't think he's quite washed up yet. I think he still has a lot to offer any which team. Okay? The problem is, I don't know if he ever played under Claude Julien, but he was acquired by Marc Bergevin. Okay? Marc Bergevin is the player that acquired him. Marc Bergevin is the GM that acquired him. He's also the GM that ended up trading him. Why did he trade him? He didn't like what he was seeing on the ice. Alright? He didn't like his performance on the ice. Do you think he is going to go and bring him back in Montreal? Maybe. I might be wrong. But it's like a girlfriend. Alright? You date a girlfriend. You fuck her. You make breakfast for her. You love her. And then she pisses you off. You know, maybe she shits with the door open. Maybe she crashed your car in a tree. Whatever it may be. The girlfriend pisses you off. You dump her. And then you find out you need a girlfriend again. Are you going to go back to that same person? Maybe. If you're forgiving and you say, hey, she changed. Okay, she's not going to crash my car. She's not going to shit with the door open. Then, yeah, maybe you go back to her. But when I look at Marc Bergevin, I don't want to say he's stubborn because I don't know the guy, but he doesn't look like the type of person to say, hey, let me give you a second chance. Come back to Montreal. Again, he did it to Dale Weiss. But I don't think he traded Dale Weiss because he wasn't performing. I think he traded Dale Weiss because to get value out of him. He was on quite a tear for a while there, and he got value out of him. Ended up bringing him back, but hey. Alvin was here, says Galchenyuk can't defend for his life. He also says, Alvin, he says, Price to Colorado would be crazy. Byram is guaranteed Montreal's interest. Absolutely. Guaranteed in their interest. But does Avalanche want to give them? Want to give that player? Again, I'll tell you guys, put yourself in the shoes of the Colorado Avalanche here, or as the GM of Colorado. Do you want to take on Carey Price and give away who is expected to be a stud defenseman and Bowen Byram? Maybe. Maybe you think that Carey Price is a better player and he's going to push you to win the Stanley Cup. Maybe. But if I'm to be completely objective here, if I were the GM of Colorado, I would not take on that contract. Personally. At least not for Bowen Byram. Maybe for Connor Timmins, yes. Connor Timmins is a good prospect, guys. We forget. Maybe for Sam Girard, yes. He's also a great player, Sam Girard. I hate the hit he gave to the Brinket, but he's still a great player. At this point in time, with the type of season he's having, I don't think that price for Byram is quite equal. I might be wrong. Again, I'll reiterate myself. His reputation across the league, it's pristine. It's squeaky clean. You know, they love him. So maybe, yeah, Joe Sakic, who I believe it's him, the GM in Colorado, maybe he's looking at Carey Price and sees him in high regards. He's willing to give Bowen Byram and much, much more. All right? If it were me, and maybe it's because I see a lot of Canadiens game and he's in my backyards and I see him perform, I wouldn't be willing to give it. But if the Colorado Avalanche, they're willing to do so, and they're willing to pull the trigger, I'm going to be sitting here jizzing in my pants because I love that trade. Let's see. All right, Joe says, we can retain some of Cam Fowler's contract. Yeah, we can. But again, I think with Cam Fowler, are you going to win the cup with him? Probably not. I don't think that the team is quite ready yet to win the cup. Okay, say if right now they're sitting third or second in the Atlantic, okay? The players are having an insane season. Price is playing insane. Yeah, I would sacrifice Mete for Cam Fowler. But right now, at this point in time, what's Cam Fowler going to give you? I don't think much. The book says he's old, and Mete is young. Joe says he's only 27 or 28. That's true. 27 isn't really old. I think that's right in his prime. It seems like forever that the Canadiens have been after Cam Fowler. But then again, Mete is 21. He's 21. So you're giving up a good 6 years. All right? Keep that in mind. Jordan Cannell says, you need to tickle my balls, mate. Oh, man, you and me both. You and me both. You guys hate it when you're in public and you got that ball tickle and you can't do it and you just feel like you're going to die. Oh, man. Great comment. Alvin was here, says, I'd rather trade Price to Colorado or Carolina. Two teams who need a solid goalie. Contracts will be retained. For Colorado, we can get Byram, Newhook, and a few picks. Yeah, absolutely. I reiterate some of the things I say. If they're willing to do it, if they need a goalie that bad, go ahead and do it. But I will say something and keep this in mind with every passing year. Because a lot of people are saying this year for Carey Price, it's a fluke. He's not going to be this bad forever. I kind of disagree. I sort of view it as things to come. With every passing year, his value is getting lower and lower and lower, and he's getting older and older and older. If you are going to trade him, do it now. Do it now. Excuse me. The book says, but besides speed, right? And Alvin is here going off that, says, for Carolina, you can get Maracek, Jacques Bean, and Suzuki, the brother of Nick, I'm assuming, and a few picks. For sure. For sure. I mean, I would take that any time. But again, it depends on whether, if not, they're willing to do it. You know, I think that that's decent. I think that Carey Price's reputation is still pristine across the league, but I might be wrong. You know, maybe there's a lot of GMs right now, they're looking at his contract and they're saying, I don't want to go anywhere near that. You're like a prostitute with syphilis. I do not want to go near you. Okay, maybe that's the case. I don't know. All I am saying is that I will get mad if the Canadiens and Marc Bergevin do not at least try to get something out of Carey Price. You know, I would be happy if he ends up going to Seattle because, again, I think at this point the contract is hurting the team more than it's helping it. But it's going to frustrate me if he goes to Seattle knowing that we could have traded him before and get something out of it. Because when a player goes to Seattle, you're not getting anything in return. You're basically losing him for free. So we'll see. Maybe it's a kind of Marc-Andre situation where he goes to Vegas. We'll see. I will say this. That kid Primo, he's up and coming, and he's up and coming quickly. I love that Caden Primo. I love him. He's got the face of a baby, but he plays like a legend. Legend. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but still, you guys know what I mean. What do you think? I don't know. I don't know what that was pertaining to. Joe says, Alan says, Joe, his contract will end in like 6 years, I think. That's too long. Back again referring to Cam Fowler, and Joe replies, yeah, Mete's got speed, but Fowler's the defenseman, in my opinion. He's an all-round player. Fowler and Weber would be an insane first pairing, or Fowler and Petrie. Again, if the Canadiens right now are a competitive team, if they're in the playoffs position right now, yeah, I would say go after Fowler, sacrifice some of that future. But for me, the Canadiens are a team, they're not going to win the cup anytime soon. It doesn't look like they're going to make the playoffs anytime soon. So I'm much more lenient to keep some of that future, whether it be the Ikonen, the Ylonen, even the Metes. I'm much more willing to keep them than to get you a Cam Fowler. who, again, going back to what I said about Kovalchuk and about Scandella, they're good players, but all they're doing is preventing you from getting a better draft pick. So that's what I think. Jordan Cannell liked what I said. Price, or Alvin was here, says Price, just Price. Joe said, did you hear that Ray Shiro got fired? Wonder what Jake's thinking about. Yeah, I wondered too. Wow, whoa. Ray Shiro got fired? Holy crap. I kind of read that without even thinking. Anyway, yeah, I wonder what he thinks too. And I will say, I'm still ashamed of Friday for not being able to do that shows because I still have the notes right here. I still have all of the graphics up. So I don't know if I might do a pre-recorded show and just put it on right now. Or I could even do a live show now that I have good internet connection. Now that I'm in the USA and I don't have that cheap Canadian connection. But that doesn't really matter. War Bro says hi. Alright, so we're almost at the 1 hour mark. I will say if you guys have any other questions, please fire them away right now. Again, if you guys want to squeeze in a last minute call, you can add me on Discord, the Sinbin number 9433, and you can add me as a friend and then call me. But otherwise, I'm going to start wrapping it up here. I think I can squeeze Gallagher because I did promise I'll talk about him. Concerning news about Gallagher. Here we go. Oh, come on, you fucking internet. Jesus Christ. Come on. Don't you hate it when you prepare everything and you go and put in its... Okay, here we go. Alright, here we go. Habs forward Brendan Gallagher recently returned from injury, and if you guys remember, he came for that one game. I think he played on a line with Domi. He came for that one game, and I think he never played after that. He's still out of the lineup. He's considered out and about. They say Brendan Gallagher, according to Arpin Basu, he announced that Gallagher had stayed home and is not playing for the Canadiens on Saturday night, and that's due to headaches. He's been having recurrent headaches. They also say in the article that he's been wearing a tinted visor. What does the tinted visor have to do with anything? I'm assuming due to his concussion, or the concussion that he had. He has some sensitivity to the light, so that's why he's wearing a tinted visor. Oh my god, I don't know what to say, guys. Because Brendan Gallagher is my favorite player, not only on the Canadiens, but probably in the NHL. I would hate to see him have a situation where he's getting recurring headaches. For me, that's bad news, because the concussion isn't going away. And not only is that bad for the Canadiens and their performance, but it can also have ramifications on the player and on his life. You know, whether it be some headaches, some memory loss, whatever it may be, insomnia. So I guess I wanted to wish Gallagher a good rehabilitation, and we hope to see you on the ice, because as much as the Canadiens have missed Drouin this year, Gallagher is the heartbeat of the team. And for me, if not for Shea Weber, or even including Shea Weber, I think that Gallagher is the captain. But back to the chat, last minute questions. Joe says, bit off topic, but have you seen Laval's playoff push right now? They're dominating. Hudon can't stop scoring goals. And, good for them. Maybe one of the reasons that Bergevin did not call up Hudon, as crazy it may sound, he wants him to help the Laval Rocket. It's very beneficial for these young players to get a taste of the playoff in the American Hockey League. Because developing in a loser culture, that's not good. And for those young guys over there, whether it be, the Palings, Evans, the Brooks, whoever it may be, I'd much rather see them in a winning mentality and a winning culture than in a losing culture. And I've been very disappointed, if I might say so, about Joel Bouchard. I thought he would have got them on track by now, and I really hope they make the playoffs for his sake. Jordan Cannell says, did you see Julien fired, warranted or not, before the season is done? For me personally, he might be, but if I were the GM, or if I were the president, I would say, he's not the problem, because he is trying to do the best with the players he has. And one thing that's irreproachable about the Canadiens is their compete level. It's their how hard they work every game. And yes, that's the players, but it's also the coach, what he's done to spread that message, to make them work hard. So for me, I don't think that Julien is the problem. I think it's more so Bergevin for giving him the players and having him deal with those type of players who, in my opinion, no offense to like the Nick Cousins and the Riley Barbers and the Dale Weises or whoever's on the lineup right now, I mean, you're not going to win with those type of players. And I will give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. A lot of the players are injured right now. Drouin, Armia, Gallagher, the list goes on and on. But regardless, even if those players were still healthy, I do think that Bergevin has to take some of the blame for not getting some good, raw, young talent. And for me, the only way you're going to get it is through the draft. Okay? Getting a good top 3, top 4, top 5 pick. It's through the draft. He tried with Aho. It didn't work out. Offer sheets, they don't work out often for a reason. So for me, that's not really a good try. I like to see him draft high. Alvin was here, says, Hudon can't translate to the NHL level, though. He's an AHL superstar. Yeah, that's true. And I addressed that on my other episode. I said, he's one of those players who's going to go down in the books as always being great in the AHL, but not being able to translate it in the NHL. He could be added to the list of names with Bruce Boudreau, who is an AHL phenom, but in the NHL he didn't do much. So I kind of view Hudon as the same thing. All right, last few questions here before I call it a night. Joe says, if Gallagher becomes like Noah Juleson, oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know if you guys are religious or not, but I'm praying for Gallagher right now. I'm praying for the guy because even if he were to play, even if he's not putting stats on the board, even if he's not scoring, Gallagher can offer you a lot. He is the heartbeat of the team. No other player in the NHL, I repeat, no other player in the NHL works as hard as Brendan Gallagher. So that's my 2 cents about it. Jordan Daigle, first time I see your name, so welcome, buddy. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. He says, if we manage to keep Kovalchuk, it may make it easier for Romanov next year. And that's true. Kovalchuk, it's not only a good decision by Bergevin because of his contract. He could be someone who can ease Romanov in, because as of now, and I might be wrong, I don't think that there's any Russian players on the team other than Kovalchuk and Romanov. Whether it be in the depth charts or anything like that. So we'll wait and see. But if they can get something out of Kovalchuk, even if it's like a B-grade prospect, I would rather get that than keep him just for the sake of easing Romanov in, because I don't think that Romanov, it's going to be a problem easing him in terms of culture. Oftentimes what NHL teams would do is that they'll bring someone on and their job is to ease that player in. If you guys want an example, in Edmonton, Jesse Puljujarvi was one of the only Finnish players, if not the only Finnish player. So what they got a Finnish player to, like a Finnish type of coach, or someone to ease him in the lineup and sort of make it more comfortable for him. That's something that teams do a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to trade Kovalchuk or not re-sign him. If they bring someone who can speak Russian, who can ease him in, show him around the best places to eat in town, or where to stay, or who to hang around with. That's something that's fairly common. We saw it over there in Edmonton with Puljujarvi. We might see it with Romanov, okay? But I wouldn't keep Kovalchuk just for that reason. If they can get value for him at the deadline, okay, or if they want to package him with a deal, I'd much rather do that than just keeping him for the sake of easing in Romanov. But that's what I have to say about it. Canal says agree, and he said, he didn't try with the Aho. That was some PR stunt. He had the cap. Yeah, for sure. He said, Bergevin, after he did it, he said, when I did it, in my head, there was a 90% chance that we get Sebastian Aho. I think that's a big old load of horse semen, because if you look at offer sheets throughout the years, very rarely do they go through. I think the last one was Dustin Penner. Okay, so if you say there's a 90% chance, I don't know what type of hookah you're smoking, but I want some. And with that being said, I would like to thank all of you guys who made it out here on this Sunday evening and decided to watch me answer these questions and ramble on like a headless idiot. And when I say everybody, I mean Jordan Cannell, Jordan Dig, a couple of Jordans, Joe, Alexi DeBook, Alvin was here, War Bros, I don't know if you're still listening. Let me go through. Stu Johnson, I believe, was there. Ghislain Laframboise, if you're listening to this afterwards. Whoever it may be. Shazam. Rocky Hockey. I would like to thank all of you guys. It really means a lot for me that you guys decide to listen live and send me those questions. And if anything else, join me next Sunday. Cuckoo. Join me next Sunday when I do my next episode of the Habsnation Podcast, where I take your questions, where we talk about Habs. I know it's been kind of depressing this year as a Habs fan, but let this be sort of a club, okay? A club where we can join together and sort of wallow in our own sorrows, okay? Where we can all bitch and whine together and make up trade propositions, okay? That's my goal, okay? It's to sort of talk to you and have a, one-on-one chat. So with all that being said, I appreciate you guys coming out here. I really love you guys. And if you want other hockey information, not just Habs, every Friday, except last Friday apparently, the Habs or the Sin Bin Hockey Podcast, we talk about the NHL as a whole, not specifically the Canadiens, but we do touch on them. And make sure to like me on Twitter at the Sinbin 1996. If you have any messages or you want to say anything, sponsor the show or anything like that, join me on Gmail. The name's right down there. And again, if you guys are looking into calling in the future, you can do that on Discord user the Sinbin, all one word, number 9433. So with all that being said and done, thank you for coming out. If you're all of you people that I just named, and my name is Matt.